Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. I'm deeply grateful, always. Sub-Saharan Africa, a second Ebola patient has died in Uganda. The health ministry has reported, as I've written before in 2014, Ebola is about its escape velocity. Viruses exhibit non-linear and exponential characteristics, and that's why one or two cases is kind of meaningless, because it can jump to 1,000 and then 10,000 in a blink of an eye. World Health Organization convenes emergency meeting on Ebola for Friday. Panel will decide whether to declare the outbreak a public health emergency of international concern, a major step in mobilization against the disease. DR Congo will apply to join the East African community. This is evidenced in a letter sent by President Tshisekedi to the East African Community Chair, President Paul Kagame. The governors of the bank, this is the African Development Bank, are seen here gathered for the official photo of the 2019 AFDB annual meeting. However, Bloomberg is questioning the choice of where they've held this meeting, which is in Equatorial Guinea. And they're headlining an article, "A Tiny Tyranny in Equatorial Guinea Sustained by Oil Riches." President Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mabasogo has ruled the West African nation for almost 40 years, and less than half the population has access to clean water. Less than half the population, about 1.3 million, has access to clean water. 20% of children die before reaching the age of 5. United Nations data show more than half of all children of primary age aren't in school. One of the ministers says, when our peers from Nigeria and Sudan come to see our slums, they say, "This is not poverty. Come to our country to see real poverty." Only 10 public protests were recorded in Equatorial Guinea from 1997 through April of this year, according to Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, a US-based non-governmental organization that tracks political unrest. Part of the reason for dampened dissent is the conscious underfunding of education by the regime. Activists' ability to mobilize is limited by the cost of mobile internet access in the country, which is the highest in the world. 1 GB of monthly broadband data costs $34.80, well above $6.96 charged in Gabon and 73 cents in India. Terror and fear has taught our people to swallow their rage. Our generation inherited a useless country. The regime has killed our working culture, education, and morals. We need to educate critical minds who can lead the movement. Change is inevitable, but it may take a while. Poverty has risen since oil prices dropped in 2014, and the country's production was halved to 120,000 barrels per day, from more than 300,000 during peak years. At 77, Teodoro Obiang isn't loosening his grip on power, despite rumors of ill health and alleged coup attempts. When recent waves of unrest unseated autocrats from Sudan to Zimbabwe, Obiang was unshaken. He's now the world's longest-serving president, and he and his family are likely to extend their hold until their oil runs dry. Equatorial Guinea is apparently the third richest country in Africa on a per capita GDP basis at around $10,000 per person, but the wealth does not average out like that, particularly here. I take you back to Hugh Masekela. I want to be there when the people start to turn it around. Lenin, there are decades when nothing happens, and there are weeks when decades happen. You remember I was writing about Khartoum, and I said the zeitgeist of the revolution was as intoxicating as the oud that the Saudi Arabian ambassador once gave me. And when I found myself semi-delirious, intoxicated on my own perfume. The exquisite murals, the composition of the crowds, the element of girl power, which spoke to hope and a future. As I watched events unfold, it felt like Sudan was a portal into a whole new, another normal. David Pilling in the Financial Times captured the essence by quoting William Wordsworth, who wrote of the French Revolution, "O pleasant exercise of hope and joy! For mighty were the auxiliars which then stood upon our side. We who were strong in love, bliss was it in that dawn to be alive, but to be young was very heaven." Al Jazeera News is saying the Khartoum sit-in may be gone, but its dream of a democratic Sudan remains. You can't switch off people's dreams, that's the point. And I said in my article, now we have two visions of the future. One vision played out on our screens. The protesters could have been our wives, our children, our daughters, our sons. The other vision is that of MBS, MBZ, and Al-Sisi, and it's red in tooth and claw. Vladimir Z backed the Gulf, and America, frankly, remains below the radar. As I wrote on the weekend, essentially the Rand was Ace Magashulade, and I was quoting Max Duprice, who wrote in the Afrikaans Weekly Weekblad, the Rand is close to 15 for $1, Eskom, Transnet and SAA are close to collapse. And I said the ANC is an open rebellion, except as Thabo learned, the president serves at the pleasure of the ANC and not the other way round. I don't see how this gets finessed. In fact, the direction of travel is for the fissure to get wider. Add into the mix a very soft Q1 and a China-South Africa feedback loop which is undergoing a trend reversal, and we have ingredients in play which point to a further slide in the Rand. I would be selling rebounds and out-of-the-money call options and buying puts with the premium received. South African all shares up 11.33% year to date. Naspers is Africa's largest company by market value and said it expects its earnings to grow by as much as a third in the latest financial year. Core headline earnings from total operations, which strip out non-operational items, are expected to have grown by between 31 and 33% in the year to March 31. Naspers is seeking to narrow its valuation discount compared to its stake in Tencent Holdings, which is now worth $128 billion. Overall, earnings per share are expected to have dropped as Naspers sold fewer assets compared to the prior year. Its biggest such deal, the sale of a stake in the Indian e-commerce startup Flipkart to Walmart, earned the company $1.6 billion. Dollar versus Rand around the 14.90 level, 15 is key. Egyptian pounds, 16.7. They devalued a long time ago. There's still room for this currency to appreciate. EGX 30 up 8.61% year to date. Nigeria all share down 4.23% year to date. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index down 3.07% year to date. Ethiopia plans to issue telco licenses by year end. To multinational mobile companies, ending a state monopoly and opening up one of the world's last major closed telecoms markets. Ethiopia's telecoms industry is considered the big prize in a push to liberalize the country's economy, launched last year by Prime Minister Abiy because of its huge protected market serving a population of around 100 million. Looking at several options, including the sale of a minority stake in Ethio Telecom, granting of new licenses to multiple telecoms operators or a combination of both. Vodafone, MTN, Orange, Etisalat are all looking to enter the market. There will be a bidding war. It's the last greenfield site. There's an opportunity to be market dominant. It feels real this time for the first time, one of them said. I wrote after 90 days of Prime Minister Abiy in July 2018 about Ethiopia rising. I said the Prime Minister needs to execute real quick on the economic front, but if he levels the playing field, a whole troop of folks will be looking to pile in. That troop will include the Ethiopian diaspora, foreign investors, and I'm sure our very own Safaricom. Equity Group plans to set up a representative office in Ethiopia. They will be following in the footsteps of Kenya Commercial Bank. They've also been given a license in partnership with an Ethiopian bank to receive remittances, so that's something positive for them. Equity Bank trades on a trailing P/E ratio of 7.581, but of course also snaffled up Bob Diamond's bank not too long ago. This afternoon we have the reading of the budget for the fiscal year 2019-2020, which will be delivered from 3 p.m. Mir has tweeted that we're expecting an increase in income tax of 13.8%, VAT 13.8%, excise duty 15.3%, import duty 12.3%, railway levy 12.1%. There is a gap of 600 billion shillings, and according to my guest yesterday, Mr. Moira from Grant Thornton, he thinks the gap is $1 trillion. Centum reported full year earnings, which we talked about yesterday. Earnings per share up 68.68%. There is a link to the full investor briefing. Please have a look. The NSE All Shares up 7.14% in 2019, trading at a P of 11.84. The Nairobi All Shares up 7.14% year to date. NSE 20s down 4.71% year to date. Thank you for stopping by. If you're interested, catch us on Metropole TV every evening at 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Thank you.